Sorry, we're a bit late starting. There was an overrunning previous meeting. The agenda for tonight. Any apologies for absence? No. Any declarations of interest? No. Any public participation? No. The minutes of the Environment Committee on the 20th of June 2022. You've all had copies. Are there any comments, or are you happy that the minutes are a true representation? No comments, right? Thank you.
I'm happy to propose a sentence.
Yeah. So that's Leslie. And, all those in favour? Any matters arising? Excuse me. The presentation from Homes England. That's all done, isn't it? Damage to London Road play area. We've dealt with that, haven't we? We've got the
It's not repaired yet.
It's not repaired, but
Yeah,
we've got it processed, and that's all in hand. The restoration of London Town sign, we've got that's item 6. Rodent problem, is item 7. And correspondence, public participation, no, I think that's all that's on those minutes then. Right, so for acceptance. Restoration replacement of the London Road Town sign.
Okay, so we might actually have to park this because unfortunately getting quotes from anywhere at the moment is very difficult. And I have been trying to get more quotes. However, I did just want to give council something to think about. So I've put in here some attachments which are, we've got an identical sign on Queen Square, so that you can see what our London Road one looks like and what the original one looks like. I have looked at several town sign companies, and also at the previous environmental meeting, we talked about looking at cheaper alternatives, perspex 3D printing, that kind of thing. I've spoken to a lot of other councils. I have spoken to several sign companies, and I just want to check that this is the right way to go, because that sign has been there since the 70s. We're paying a lot of money for really beautiful notice boards. The town sign was supposed to match the other town sign. Are you sure you want to deviate from where we are? Because yes, a replacement in fiberglass or something that would last the next 40 years is going to cost us, depending on supply, somewhere in the region, I think, of £5,000 to £7,000. Is that money we don't want to spend? Do we want a cheaper alternative, or is this actually a really important part of the town's heritage?
That's the Leslie, anything else?
Sorry, just speaking to I want to raise something on this, because the location of that sign that came down was the outer area of the town before the town expanded quite significantly in that direction. So it's kind of down the street while you're in the town. And I just wonder whether that sighting in and of itself should be a question as well, or whether we get a sign that is like the boundary signs, which I find quite appealing. We do something like that as you actually come into the town itself on the new border, rather than actually have something that is partway down and is lost now. Even when it was there, it's kind of lost in the housing. It's not a proper boundary anymore. And I think if we're going to have a sign, it needs to represent where the town comes in. That's just a fault in being with the
I, as you all know, grew up here, and I always thought it was odd that we had 2 town signs, because I think that most places you go to have a town sign as a focal point for the town. And as Councillor Leslie quite rightly says, that was the boundary of the town. I mean, West Car Road and Dodge Road and New Road is called New Road, but that was, you know, those are relatively new houses, and big pigsties and fields there when I was a kid, and the checkered flag filling station, you know. So it was like, so that was the boundary, but on the same score, I've always thought it odd that we actually had two tan signs. And on the boundary signs, I think it's Quidnam, as you drive into Quidnam from the Kendall Way, they've got a lovely sign with, you can see them in some villages where there's two posts and these sort of arch signs, you know, welcome to Quidnam, or you know, and I think we have expanded, and if you're coming into Attleborough from Norwich or from Arbuthnot, or we don't have anything to say, you know, welcome to Attleborough, or you're now in Attleborough, and the cost implication to spend £6,000, say, on a new tan sign, when we have already got a tan sign, I'd question that personally.
I was going to reiterate that actually, because I think we don't need to use our town signs. We've got one in the town centre. Why is the London Road entrance to the town got a sign when none of the other three principal routes have? Yeah. For the same money, we could buy 4 signs and have one on each route, and really identify the town.
That's fine.
Me too.
Can I just respond to that and say, yes, I think these are really nice. B, my point was just I'd rather us have no sign than a cheap copy of the other sign.
Yeah.
But thirdly, I actually spoke to Harry Stebbings the other day, like the Harry Stebbings, doesn't even own Harry Stebbings signs anymore, he's retired. We are the only town he knows of that has 2. So it is quite unusual to have 2.
Yeah, sorry. I've driven on this road hundreds, if not thousands of times, coming in from Norwich, back into Attleborough, and I can't remember if there's a sign indicating when you're arriving back, coming back. And if anybody else knows.
Highway sign.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like our sign.
There's no nice sign.
No, and as we've got one in the centre, I think what you were saying, that the nice big traditional sign, let's replace the border signs with something that match, that are up to date and demarcate sort of the ways into Attleborough.
Put one in each.
Yeah.
Way. Yeah, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as like near the slip road where you turn into Deacon Common, there's quite a basic and quite boring sign there. But I think that is the only one. But if there was going to be one for each like predominant entrance, then I would say we probably need to do one for London Road, one for Norwich Road, one for Buckingham Road, one for Queen's Road.
What I was going to say is, talking about social media earlier, there was a thing on social media about this sign. I don't know if you saw it, where they said, "Oh, the sign of the town has gone missing. Does anybody know what's happened to it?" And somebody replied, "Yes, they took it to Queen Square for the Jubilee week." So that just shows how much people realise where the signs are. Yes, sorry.
I'm glad to see there's such a good consensus on this. The council, it's really refreshing. If you were going for something like that, I mean, you've got options of something as grand. If you're looking at the boundary signs sheet, there's the Wokingham one at the bottom, but that takes some care. But if we're using existing postage and sign up and make it better, you can have something like the Havisham one or the Orkling or Welcome to. I like that. Welcome to.
Yeah.
You know, welcome to Attleborough, and have a logo on it or something above it like that. And it's simple, elegant, it's in keeping with what we're doing elsewhere in the town. And if you look at the cost, it's going to be no more than £1,000 for the Orkling or something like that. Well, £4,000, you've got something that does that. Or all the entrances.
It's not even that much. I mean, they said if you're going to multiple identical signs, only 1 tool in the setup charge. So we might call anything for 1 tool in charge.
So even better.
Yeah. And absolutely, I just think it's a much better solution. And the bit you were saying about the positioning of the sign, when this came up last time, I'm thinking, why have we got a sign there when it can stretch a good mile, mile and a half further on?
Does the Attleborough go down as far as the Stag?
It will eventually, yes.
I mean, our Attleborough brand bankers.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So,
I mean, we could have it on, just the main right of where that area is. So as you come off the A11 past the Stag, you could have a lovely sign, welcome to Battersea. And then we don't have to worry about repositioning it later. It just identifies the area. Yeah.
Just a practical question. If we are putting signs out on all the periphery of the town, do we need to put them in particular areas? I know you said put it there, but are we limited by the specific geographic outlying parts of Attleborough? And do we need planning permission for it?
Consult the highway.
I think it depends on who owns the land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if, you said, oh, we'll mark it down in the stack and say this is where Attleborough starts, but are we allowed to do that, or are we fixed by a particular
Well, technically,
boundary?
the water does extend down towards it. It would be, I've got the maps somewhere that we can have a look at this, but I'd be very happy for us as a council to explore this as a preference and then perhaps report back with the costings of them and where we could locate them.
Yeah.
And then councillors can make a decision once we've found the facts of highways and the boundaries and bits and pieces. But that would be my preference as a proposal this time.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, you were seconding.
So the proposal is that we get a costing for 4 welcome to Attleborough signs, the 4 main entrances into the town, and we will explore the cost and the location after consulting with highways and other third parties.
Just welcome to Alba.
Welcome to Attleborough.
yeah, but with the logo on.
With the logo on, with the logo on, yeah.
If you got like, welcome to Alba. Alba is just a historic town, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that historic market.
Yeah.
Welcome, historic market town. Shall we add that on there for a few more letters?
Yes.
Why not? Because we do have the long-standing Thursday market in the region, so let's do that, okay?
I love the one from Deacon. Have you seen the signs at Deacon? It says, welcome to Deacon, try you steady.
We'll leave that there, but if you're happy with that, as a broad proposal for exploration, that's the proposal.
That's the proposal, and that's seconded. All those in favour?
And actually, Peter, you, am I right? And you said you were going to do Britain Bloom next year.
Yeah.
So actually, we've got some. If we've got some planters to put under it, you look at the Wokingham one, gives you an idea of how nice that is. Flowers, but I know that is.
I was just going to say, on the 4 main entrances to town, we did do quite a substantial amount of daffodil planting a while back, so and they'll come up.
Yeah, really good. Right outside my house.
There is one thing with this, price of this one,
Sorry?
Do grow.
No.
never mind that.
Right, that one settled. Rodent problem at Grosvenor Park.
Rodent problem at Grosvenor Park. So you may also want to look at your correspondence because it is relative.
Where is that in posters?
Yes.
Yeah.
From a bait, isn't it?
There's
No,
a correspondence on this
no.
side.
Hello.
It looks like this.
So we have had some correspondence from allotment holders who are quoting, obviously they're under the Allotment Act, keeping the pens and rabbits and permitted on allotments, and are viewed as allotment holders' rights. So there is some backlash about the idea that we shouldn't have chickens. However, our contractors also state to be responsible for any vermin that they create. But more frustratingly, the rats now seem to have moved, and we have not caught a single one. So I'm tempted to call them off due to the fact that this is costing us a lot of money every day, and they haven't caught any yet. So it's your thoughts on that, really?
Did I see on one of these, they said one of the boxes had been removed or replaced?
There was one once, but they said that's quite normal. I mean, there's a lot of boxes down.
Yeah. One box removed unauthorised by someone. Another box had been tampered, dropped. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted to say, obviously, just because we are having the allotment act quoted to us, at no point well, this is what I believe on the motion that was passed at the last meeting, at no point did we say that they would not be permitted. We just said that if the problem continued and people chose to keep their chickens, they would then be like, contributing towards the cost. We never said we're not allowed chickens, we never banned chickens, we just said.
I think the word is something like you have 30 days to resolve the problem, or you have to.
Yeah, so it was just, if you chose to, have your right and have chickens there, that you would then be financially responsible for the pest they created. So I don't really think that's too relevant. I don't think we should worry too much about this.
Councillor Wenham and Councillor Lane.
Am I right in thinking that we also said that if they want to keep chickens, that we were going to ask them to take an allotment on one of the other sides? Or do I get that wrong?
I think it was just.
Or it was just this?
I think it was just that we said there wasn't necessarily any need to ask chickens on other sites to be potentially removed, because we don't have a problem on other sites.
Okay, two things. Firstly, on the whole allotment thing with chickens and what have you, I've sort of been talking to people from other areas, and a lot of the areas, these allotment holders seem to form their own committees to self-manage. And I know that we've got various sites, and I'm wondering whether that might be a way forward to actually, rather than we infect them and us, to encourage them to have their own management within their allotment site. The second thing on that, we've also discovered that it's very common practice not to actually provide water standing pipes, because water butts are absolutely encouraged, and they don't want to be using, the authorities have said they don't want to be using mains water. They want the allotment holders to self-water with water butts that they provide themselves. So all of these sort of things, and this issue with the chickens, if they had some sort of committee or team that we could talk to, rather than it being them and us, it might be a way forward. And also it would mean less of our manpower or your hours in the office are spent trying to manage the allotments when they should be able to self-manage themselves to a degree. It's just important.
Councillor Taylor and Councillor.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Councillor Lane's perfectly right. Allotment associations are quite common, and usually, because they do work as a committee, the chairman of their committee or a representative would normally attend the council meeting and give an update, or invite members maybe to go down there for site inspection stew or something like that. So that could well be a way forward.
Give them autonomy over managing the site.
There is still things that the council would be responsible for, though, like the rents and stuff and the tenancy agreements, because by law that's our statutory role. So we would still have to do certain things, but the day-to-day management, if you like, can be handed over.
Yes.
Can I just say one of both councils? The other thing is what we have to be mindful is not all allotment holders have a shed or greenhouse where they can fill the water butts. We've got to be mindful. Yes, that means you're having sandpipes, but I don't think you need a ridiculous amount as asked for down at the allotment site. We've got two, haven't we now?
Well, we started putting 4 this week,
Oh, right.
but I think that will be it.
It's got to be. I
I
don't
think
think
4 is more than enough.
Yeah.
In another.
No, they're putting in another 2 to make a total of 4. The guys have been chatting to a lot of people while we've been down there, and I think part of the problem is that a lot of allotment holders are choosing, for whatever their own personal reasons are, to all turn up at very similar times of the day, which then means you could be potentially waiting a significant amount of time for your turn to use the tap. And it is quite a big site, so we've got the team to start knocking off these projects now, and if it keeps people happy, they've put in an extra couple, starting an extra couple this week.
I do know someone who has an allotment on that site, and one of his neighbours commandeered the tap for an hour and 20 minutes to water her allotment. So anybody else that wanted to use that tap had to wait until she finished. And that's the problem that you've got, as you say, they all said to go down at the same time. Councillor Ennis?
With respect, is paying for water,
We do.
we do council.
But we have duties to provide allotments.
Well, that's true.
The duty to provide allotments and the duty to provide water. That's
Yeah, much water is here.
Maybe
We've
one-
always spoken, there's a lot of water in
Yeah.
it. I agree.
Maybe one thing, I don't want to keep bringing up things for the future, but maybe one thing we could look at is providing water bucks, you know, at certain points on the side. You know, if we don't want to be installing more pipe work, and if not everybody can either afford to buy a water butt or has the space, you know, maybe that's an option that we actually, because surely to use natural rainwater is more in keeping than, you know, and it doesn't take much to fill the water. I mean, my water butt's still not empty, if you're missing, you know, I'm still doing a free myself. So, you know, that, maybe that's the, you know.
So are we proposing, sorry.
I was just going to say on that, I think that setting or encouraging them to set up a committee would be a good way of addressing these sort of front-end issues with the sign. So perhaps we could, as a council, write to allotment owners or holders and ask them to, if they want to put their names forward for election onto a committee. We could leave the clerk to sort out the brief and the scope of that if you want to, because it's in the remit of the day-to-day operations. And I think that would be a really good way of addressing these sort of issues. But one thing we do need to discuss and resolve on is what are we doing about pest prevention going forward? So, because it's a rat spend.
It's about £1,000 a month. We don't want to pay. If we're not getting any value.
So I'm sorry,
No,
yeah.
just,
Well-
we can come back to that.
Yes, I jumped, it wasn't, I was going on the water and I thought the attenuation tanks were supposed to water the allotment when the plans were given in the first place. And about allotment association, I think I know with some allotment owners that would, no, I don't know about the new ones, I'm talking about older allotment owners. They wanted to do that a long time ago and thought they couldn't, so they now buy all the seeds and everything together, so I'm sure, I know one of the allotments would be, I think, really.
I'm just going to say, I was just talking about Grosvenor Road a lot.
That'll be across the board. And we will have three associations and three sites.
Not an association, it would be on all of them. I don't know.
Councillor Taylor and Councillor Bond.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if that was a route we wanted to go down, there's actually like very good templates that are already for existing available online from the Allotment Association, that they actually are like a national, there was a national allotment association where you can get all the policy templates from, or like the policy templates actually. And what could kill two birds with one stone, not chickens of course, but other hypothetical birds, is if we were to write to the allotment tenants and say, firstly, would you be interested in the prospect of an allotment association run by the tenants themselves? And secondly, we could, if we were minded to withdraw the pest control that we're currently doing, just in that letter, ask them to be vigilant, and if they notice anything, please report it to us as soon as possible. And that way, or the association itself, they can then report it to them, so that we're still got an idea of what's occurring with the pests, like with the rats, but we can maybe take a bit of a step back from it.
Yeah, I was basically going to say, well, I think we should stop it. However, we should remind a lot of users that they've got to be vigilant and helping the users as well.
Councillor Naylor, can we wind this up?
Can I just rewind a bit? When the original complaints about rats came to us, were they from the allotment holder or from the resident?
Allotment holder.
So they know within themselves that there is
Yeah.
an issue. So therefore, as Councillor Taylor said, to actually say to them, right, look, we know there's an issue and it's costing us at the moment. You know, can you be vigilant and we'll work with you and so on.
So can we sort of formalise this properly? What we're saying is we're going to write to the allotment holders, ask them if they would like to join a tenants association, if they would be self-managing within the remit of coordinating with the clerk and notifying any issues to the clerk, what's in the office, to be dealt with by the council, but in the main, we would like them to be self.
I think that, you know, the proposal really is, they're inviting them to form an allotment association for each of the 3 allotments, as well as remind them to remain vigilant and report any instances to the council, whilst also instructing them that we are removing the pest control because of its exorbitant cost or something else. I think that will be the summary of the proposal that we've kind of come to. Is that their summary? Yeah,
Right, so would you like to propose that, would you?
go for it.
And would you second it? Councillor Dale, second. All those in favour? And what are we going to do about the water issue? Or we're going to leave that at a later
We've got
stage.
the Alvin Public Association, we've put
Yeah.
up on 2 new taps in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
two
we've
councils
done
on it anyway, so they've now gone forward, everyone else.
Right, okay. Matters arising from councillors' walkabout. We all did have a walkabout, and I forwarded you the findings. As I said, some of it was already in hand. Some of it is new. Where are we with everything? And I apologise because I've been out for a couple of weeks.
So we haven't, if you're talking about projects, we've only just started with those. We've just hired some new staff, so that's quite good. So that's how we've managed to do the Queen Square edging, although that is going to have some tweaks to it, and put in the allotment taps. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, well, firstly, the projects that we've done for environment, we're now in a position staff-wise, we hope that we're going to be able to knock these projects off quite quickly.
Right.
So that's really exciting that we've got the staff to actually make things happen, and there will be time put aside to do that for you. One of the things I just wanted to bring up really briefly was we were going to put some more benches in the cemetery. Do you remember that we had this conversation about that bench that we purchased before my time that we weren't keen on? Some of you will know what it was. It was a memorial bench. It was purchased by someone that used to work here. It's wrought iron, but it's very garish, and we couldn't find anywhere suitable to put it, so it's been hidden. Well, actually, one of the ground staff suggested this week, actually, that bench would look quite nice if we just painted it all black, and then we could put it in the cemetery. So if everyone's happy with that, I think that would look a lot more classic and in keeping, and it means that we've got an expensive asset that we can then use.
It has to be seen.
So it means
Please, can you send us all a photo?
Yeah.
Before and after.
But I know Councillor Taylor's seen it, I know Councillor Leslie's seen it, I know Councillor Taylor thought it should be behind the dark room. No, I know.
I can't believe no one actually, when we've all looked at it, didn't think there's something
I mean,
like
I think you're so new, you don't want to touch it. That's the temptation, isn't it?
that's a very good idea.
You know, as far as those projects that were listed to councillors, and they are for consideration and approval, I'll be very happy to propose allow the clerk to schedule those going forward in the discretion of the staff, you know, because they know when they do it, with the addition of that bench in the cemetery.
Right. Are we, any seconders for that? Yeah. One in favour? Sorry, excuse me. Your voice.
You make sure that when we paint it, you just paint it with powder coat rather than.
It probably won't need powder coating. It's to do with powder coating on top of that, you know, stuff like that, it would actually peel off. But I think something with like the Hammerites.
Hammerite, that's what.
You know, or where we'll actually bite into the surface from.
Give me a shot bottle first. I'm just thinking,
Right, we'll move on to the next.
that's what we mean.
Sorry, just before we move on as well, talk about painting zones. One thing that was discussed on the first look that we done, and then I did raise to our councillor Leslie on the second one, was how desperately we need to have the railings on Queen Square painted, because they are a mess. They're so rusty and it's only going to get worse. And I feel like that is the crown, that is the jewel in our crown. What I was going to say is, depending on the way in which that we would paint them, something I did suggest was contacting maybe like the Norfolk Youth Offending Team, because they did used to a long time ago contact the council and offer to come do like odd jobs for us, like painting fences, painting railings.
They did do it.
Yeah,
They did.
but I don't
They did
know if they
actually.
still offer, because I think that stopped under old administration. So hopefully if we could maybe reach out and rebuild that relationship and get back on their radar, you know, when things do come up, we could give them a little list.
The council also